When will you get the picture? You're the past, I'm the future. Lovecraft Country, Episode 8, starts with the streets filled on the south side of Chicago. Police are trying to clear out the streets so cars can get by, and we see Diana in tears. Her friend Bobo, aka Emmett Till, was savagely murdered, and the people are gathered for a public viewing of his body. We see a variety of reactions as one woman vomits from the gruesomeness. Some members of the Nation of Islam are speaking out in anger, and a pastor speaks of organizing and fighting using the law. It's one of the hottest days of the year, and Diana can smell the rotting flesh from way back on the line with Ruby, Atticus, Letty, and Montrose. Atticus is being extra mindful of Letty in the heat, indicating he's aware she's pregnant. They get offline to have a side conversation about protecting Dee from the truth. Letty thinks Hippolyta is not coming back from the portal she fell into last episode, but Atticus is not sure that she's gone forever. Before they know it, Diana sneaks off, and Montrose, Letty, and Tick split up to find her, while Ruby stays online in case she comes back. We get the opening credit. The title of this episode is Jigga Bobo, and the icon is Emmett Till's signature bolo tie, which we saw Bobo wearing in episode 3. We see Diana walking the streets, and she sees two young black girls laughing and enjoying ice cream carefree. This angers her, and she throws rocks at them and screams at them. There ain't nothing to laugh about. Soon, Captain Lancaster and one of his officers pull up. They interrogate Diana about the Orinthia Blue comic which was left behind at the observatory. They want to know her mother's name and where she went. Lancaster is still looking for the key to Hiram's orrery. The officer violently restrains her, draws some symbols in chalk on the ground as Lancaster speaks in the language of Adam. He's putting a curse on her. He spits in his hand and wipes it on Diana's forehead, sealing in his curse. Letty heads back to the Winthrop house in search of Dee. She isn't there, but J.R. is, and she's looking for Atticus. Messy. Tick secretly meets with Christina at the Braithwaite Mausoleum. He wants her help to learn how to cast spells. Christina wonders what took him so long to call her. She senses he's desperate to protect himself. She's still in search of Horatio Winthrop's pages, and Atticus offers the key to Hiram's time machine in exchange for the knowledge of casting spells. Christina explains that the incantation takes more than words. It takes energy, intention, and a body. She shows him the symbol of protection and advises him to trace it around the location he's going to cast the spell. Before parting, Atticus asks her about the autumnal equinox and what's going to happen that day. Christina responds that she will use it to achieve immortality. Diana returns home, where Montrose wonders where she's been. Diana is still distraught from her ordeal with Captain Lancaster and lashes out at a concerned Montrose. She wants to know if her mother is dead, just like her father, and is angry that they've been lying to her. She locks herself in the bathroom and tries to wash Lancaster's curse off her forehead. As Montrose pleads with her from outside the bathroom door, Diana puts on a Chicago American Giants baseball cap, a Negro League team. The camera pans to a copy of Uncle Tom's Cabin on the bookshelf, and the song on the radio changes to Stop That Knockin' by A.F. Winnemore. The face on the cover of the book changes. The lips are now colored red, and it falls on the floor by itself. This freaks out Diana, and she escapes through the window. Meanwhile, Ruby, fresh from viewing the body of Emmett Till, heads to William's place on the north side of Chicago. A white neighbor sees her trying to enter from across the street and asks if she's the maid. After witnessing Bobo's body, she has very little patience for this rude white man and aggressively snaps back that she isn't the damn maid. As he comes to confront her, William pulls up to the house and diffuses the situation. Ruby is distraught from seeing the body, and William takes her inside, undresses her, and draws her a warm bath. They kiss, but Ruby doesn't want to have sex with him, so she takes the potion to transform into Dell and has sex with him as a white woman. As they're having sex, we see the white skin fall off and Ruby transforms as she's climaxing. Atticus heads back to the Winthrop house and sees shoes on the porch outside. Removing shoes before entering a house is customary in Korean culture, and this tips Atticus off that J.R. is there. He walks in and sees Letty and J.R. sitting across from each other at the table. Messy. Back on the south side, Diana is about to board a train when she sees two creepy little girls with ribbons in their hair. Unlike the girls she threw rocks at earlier in the episode, these girls are in disheveled clothes and their faces have the bright red lipstick we saw on the transformed cover of Uncle Tom's Cabin. This is part of the curse Lancaster put on Diana, and only she can see these Jigaboo characters. Stop That Knockin' plays every time we see them, and she runs off the crowded platform to escape the jigaboos. Back at the Winthrop house, Jaya explains to Tick and Letty that she is a Kumio, and that was how she was able to see his future. Atticus wants to know when and how he's supposed to die, but Jaya isn't sure about the specifics of any of her visions. No one has survived before Atticus. He questions why she is even here if she has no answers, but Letty already knows the answer. It's because she loves him. Do I need to say messy again? Letty walks out, and Tick tells Jaya what they had in Korea wasn't real. And he's not dying, so get the fuck out. Upstairs, he tries to apologize for not telling her the truth about Jaya, but she's not having it. She tells him that everybody but him has died since he came back, including herself. That hits Tick hard, and he heads out to make things right. He lets Letty know that he finished deciphering Titus's pages, met with Christina, and gave her the orrery key for information on how to cast spells. He leaves in a huff, determined to protect their future by using magic, but Letty warns him not to trust Christina. At Christina's house, Ruby confronts her about the death of Emmett Till. She describes the gruesome details of his demise. Beaten and shot to death, and tied around the neck with barbed wire to a cotton gin fan before being tossed into the river. Ruby wants to know if Christina even cares or feels anything for the horrible tragedy. She admits that she doesn't care, and she accuses Ruby of not caring either. She tells her that she took the potion because she wanted to hide from the fact that despite how tragic a day it was, she was a woman who wanted what she wanted. This leaves Ruby speechless. We see children jumping rope, which is a staple of the Freddy Krueger franchise, as Dee heads to the Winthrop house to look for Atticus. He's not there, and Letty is leaving in a hurry too. The Jigaboo girls are still following Diana, and she tried to tell Letty they're behind her, but she starts to choke. Lancaster's curse prevents her from telling anyone what she's seeing. Diana runs away and sees Woody parked in the back, confirmation that they've been lying to her about her mother being on a guide trip. The Jigaboos are still following her. She picks up a bike off the grass and rides away to escape. There's rolling blackouts in the city due to the extreme heat, as we see Atticus and Montrose sitting on the corner. Tick asks if he's ever cheated on his mom, and Montrose explains that he had urges, but he never acted on them until after Dora passed. He tells the story about the pastor of his church, who was caught with another man and subsequently arrested and put in an asylum. He chose to live a life rather than be who he was and meet a similar fate. He goes on to explain that Dora lost everyone in the Tulsa massacre, and they both just wanted a family. Their love may not have been romantic, but he thinks familial love is the strongest kind of love. This leads Atticus to tell Montrose that Letty is pregnant, though she hasn't told him yet. He reveals that he also went through the portal, like Hippolyta did, and went to the future. He came back with the Lovecraft Country novel written by George Freeman, his son. Dun dun dun. In a church, Letty is praying to God to protect the man she loves from the magic he's attempting to wield. Mid-prayer, Christina walks in and scoffs at her being a woman of faith. Letitia wasn't one before she was resurrected from the dead. She called Christina to give her the photos of Titus's pages in exchange for making Atticus invulnerable. Christina refuses, but offers instead to make Letty invulnerable. She says an incantation, which burns the mark of Cain onto her stomach. Christina brags about being the first to realize you can use it to heal someone before leaving. It's nighttime, and Diana has ridden her bike to the police precinct to confront Captain Lancaster. We continue to hear "Stop that knockin'" as the Jigaboos are still following her. At Montrose's place, he and Atticus are discussing Christina and the orrery key Tick gave her. He says it doesn't matter. She can't use it because the machine is broken. Montrose wants to know if that means Hippolyta is trapped in the future, but Tick isn't sure. He describes a chaotic future where white folks are rioting, but he was only there for a second before a woman in a hood with a robotic arm handed him the Lovecraft Country novel and pushed him back through the portal. Some of the details of the Lovecraft Country book are different from their real lives, but there's enough similarities where Atticus thinks there's truth to it. The story ends with Christina sacrificing Tick on the autumnal equinox to become immortal. The equinox is 5 days away. Tick knows that casting spells could kill him, but he also wants to do everything he can in order to live for his son. Montrose vows to help and do whatever he can to save his son and grandson, even if it kills him. In Lancaster's office, he's figuring out how to proceed in his mission to get the Ori when Diana comes bursting into the room demanding answers. She wants to know if her mom is dead, what he did to her with his spit, and what happens if the Jigaboos get her. Lancaster offers to remove the curse if she brings him the Ori from the Winthrop house, but she spits on him and refuses. She also tells him that it stinks in there, which really gets under his skin. Pun intended. Lancaster says, "To hell with that girl. She's already dead. What does that mean? Y'all better not kill Diana." She exits the precinct and rides her bike intensely as the Jigaboo girls dance towards her. She screams at the top of her lungs as the sounds of 11-year-old Naomi Walder's speech from the 2018 March for Our Lives plays in the background. Back at Montrose's apartment, Tick is using his blood to create a seal of protection, just like Christina told him. Tick learns that Montrose is dyslexic, and in jest asks if there's any other secrets Montrose is keeping from him. He makes a suspicious face, which must mean that he's still keeping the biggest secret of all, that Uncle George is really Atticus's father. Montrose recites the words in the language of Adam, but nothing happens. It appears the spell didn't work. Meanwhile, Christina is on a pier with two men. She also recites words in the language of Adam before the men begin brutally assaulting her. It's almost identical to the way Emmett Till was killed, including the barbed wire around the neck attached to a cotton gin fan. Christina is dragged off the pier by the wire into the river, but before long she comes back up and is healed from her injuries by the mark of Cain. She lies there, crying hysterically. In the basement of the Winthrop house, Letty is developing her pictures from Bobo's wake. Ruby comes down to see her, and Letty feels guilty that she wasn't brave enough to take pictures of him. She reveals to Ruby that she is pregnant with Tick's baby. Ruby is disappointed and reveals to Letty that she knows all about Artem and the magic that has entered their lives, including how George really died. She admits that the white man she's been staying with is Christina Braithwaite, and Christina is going to teach her to use magic to create a space for herself. Letty warns her not to trust Christina, even though she just gave her Titus's hidden pages. Upstairs, Captain Lancaster and a huge squad of police officers are at the door. They have a warrant to search the house on some bogus probable cause regarding Nation of Islam radicals. Captain Lancaster tries to walk in, but the seal of protection from Hiram Epstein's exorcism in episode 3 prevents Lancaster from entering. Meanwhile, Diana heads to the bookstore and locks all the doors except for one. She draws a picture of the Jigaboos that have been tormenting her as she awaits their arrival. The curse prevents her from speaking about what she sees, but she can still draw it. The Jigaboos enter, and Diana uses a pipe and tries to beat them to death, but they won't stay down. Back at the Winthrop house, the police are opening fire, and a barrage of bullets are flying through the house as Ruby and Letty drop to the floor. Letty, remembering the deal she made with Christina, stands up amongst the barrage, and the invulnerability prevents all the bullets from even touching her. Letitia fucking Lewis. Back at the bookstore, Montrose hears Diana screaming and breaks down the locked door to help her. He rushes in, but he can't see the Jigaboos who are attacking her. Her left arm is being squeezed by one of their claws as the other dances around. Montrose is holding her, unwittingly allowing the claws to penetrate her skin as black veins run up her arm. Atticus is walking down the street and hears the sound of gunfire coming from Letty's. He rushes to the scene, and the officers immediately turn their attention to him. They tell him to get his hands up, and he complies. But one of the officers shoot at him anyway. Letty witnesses this all from the window and rushes out to use her invulnerability to save him, but she can't make it to him in time. Before the bullet can hit Tick, we see one of the creatures from Artem burst out of the concrete and take the bullet, saving his life. The monster rips apart the officers as Tick and Letty duck and cover for safety. Captain Lancaster's arm is ripped off and he's thrown dozens of feet in the air across the house. The creature is coming towards Tick and Letty, but Atticus holds his hand out and it immediately stops in front of him. Letty says, "The spell worked," and that's how the episode ends. So what just happened? The death of Emmett Till is the centerpiece of this episode. Emmett, also known as Bobo, was introduced in episode 3 in the basement while the kids were playing with the Ouija board. His involvement in the main story has been hinted at in various episodes following. It all came to a climax here with the portrayal of his open casket viewing. The trauma of this innocent teenage boy, being viciously and callously assaulted, is felt by many of our main characters in different ways. Bobo was Diana's best friend, so it arguably hit her the hardest. With her dad dead and mom missing, this was the event that sent her over the edge, and she spends the episode searching for answers. She's confronted by Captain Lancaster, who presumably discovered the Arinthia Blue comic book under the dead body of the officer at the Kansas Observatory that houses the time machine. This led to Lancaster interrogating and cursing Diana, and she's tormented by these two jigaboo girls throughout the episode. When Diana meets Lancaster again and confronts him about the curse, he says he can lift it for her in exchange for the Ori, but he doesn't seem to know exactly what is tormenting her, which implies that this curse affects everyone differently. These specific visions could be incepted by the innocent girls Diana lashed out at earlier in the episode, and the Uncle Tom's Cabin novel from the bathroom. By the end of the episode, Diana is trying to fight off these jigaboo tormentors, but Montrose is unwittingly allowing them to harm and possibly kill her. Speaking of Montrose, him and Tick have finally had a conversation about his homosexuality and the complexities of his relationship with Dora. Tick reveals that he also fell into the portal along with Hippolyta, but his journey was a lot quicker than hers. He only spent a few moments in the future, where white people were rioting, but a mysterious figure with a hood and a robotic arm handed him the Lovecraft Country book, written by his son George Freeman, and pushed him back through the portal. Atticus read the book, and though there are some deviations that actually align with the real-life Lovecraft Country novel written by Matt Ruff, he believes it to be true, or at least a potential future. In the book, Christina's male counterpart sacrifices Tick to become immortal on the autumnal equinox, but Tick is determined to live for his son. So he and Montrose cast a spell per Christina's instructions and his deciphered pages. Christina is now in possession of the Ori key and Titus's pages. She made deals with both Tick and Letty and now has everything she needs to achieve her goal of immortality on the autumnal equinox in 5 days. She was busy this episode. She fucked Ruby as William and then read her for filth as Christina. Then she recreated the circumstances of Emmett Till's death to feel what he felt, but not before giving Letty the mark of Cain so that she would be invulnerable. That invulnerability was key because Captain Lancaster showed up with a warrant to Letty's house to search for the Ori. But when the seal of protection on the door prevented him from entering, him and his officers opened fire on the house. Letty was unharmed due to the mark of Cain, and Atticus had one of the Artem creatures pop out of the cement to save him from the police officer's bullet. Both of their deals with Christina have paid off. And we can't forget about JR. She came all the way to Chicago from South Korea to see Tick, but she had nothing in the way of answers to when or how he will die. Letty was not happy about Tick keeping her in the dark about JR and her being a Kumiho. I doubt this is the last we've seen of her. That's it for episode 8. There's 2 more episodes of Lovecraft Country left. How do you think the season will end? Will there be a season 2? Tell us in the comments, and thanks for watching the Chitlin Circuit.